SeaJay, your favorite scuba diver here with Deep South Divers. I'm going to grab a hold of this rudder and give it a good shake to see if I can find any unusual play, and I don't. And now I'm going to inspect this propeller. This is the starboard side wheel of the 116-foot motor yacht. She is a beautiful vessel, but the captain has noticed that there is a shake or a vibration, specifically on the starboard side. You're looking at the starboard side running gear here. I expected to find something really significantly wrong, like a propeller badly damaged, or a rudder that was very loose, or maybe an entanglement. Maybe they had picked something up in the water. And I'm not finding any issues at all. See me run my fingers there along the leading and trailing edges of each blade, looking for damage, dings, dents, anything stuck up in the cutlass bearing there. And I'll grab a hold of these props here and give them a good shake. Perhaps they are loose on the shaft. So that is a no. Let's look in the cutlass bearing. You see the cutlass bearing is really dirty, or the intake. This is the leading edge of the cutlass bearing, starboard side. I'll come back to that. Let's check her zincs, see if the zincs are tight on the shaft. And they are, both of them. I don't see any obvious damage to the shaft there. It is kind of dirty, but I don't think that would cause a vibration on a 116-foot vessel. That right there is a shaft seal, and kind of dirty. Not particularly impressed with that, but with the way that it was being described, I'm expecting to see something more significant than just a little bit of fouling. So I say there that this is the port side. That's why I thumb to the left. Let's check the port side prop. Checking all along the edge for dings, dents, anything obviously wrong. Now you see here on the trailing edge, that is the rearmost edge of the prop, on each blade there's like a notch, like a little area there, right there, where it becomes, I don't know, it goes from being flat to more tapered. That's an unusual characteristic that I'm not accustomed to seeing. You see every blade is that way, so it's clearly designed that way. That's not damage. But it is odd. Perhaps not for this manufacturer, but it's something just that I'm taking note of. Because again, I'm looking for anything that's imbalanced. So the propellers have recently been remanufactured, and you see that notch there? Now that's an uncomfortable thing for me. I don't think it's wrong. I just think it's a little different. Anyway, the propellers had recently been remanufactured or rehoned. Let's go back over to the starboard side here. The captain has specified that, see, I say that's a starboard prop. The captain has specified that the issue, that they've figured out that the issue is coming from the starboard wheel. They had the props remanufactured. They appear to have done a really great job, but it is possible that they weren't done correctly and they're out of balance. But I'm looking for something significant that I could really put my finger on. So kind of dirty on the cutlass bearing, maybe. Not particularly clean. Got these weird notches. None of these things should cause the kind of symptoms that the captain is complaining about. Now you can see how uncomfortable I am with this strange edge. So I'm looking at the strut here, perhaps a crack in the strut, some sort of damage. I know that when they had the props pulled to have them redone, it was because there had been some damage to those props. So perhaps there's been some undiagnosed damage here as well. So I'm really looking for some clue. So let's check this cutlass bearing. It appears to be tight. I can't shake the shaft inside of the bearing. See me shake the prop there, checking for its tightness on the shaft. And I'm even spinning this to see if I get some sort of wobble or movement. Everything appears to be straight. You see me even checking to make sure that I've got an even gap. My fingers there are touching the back side of the cutlass bearing. That's where the water exits. Now I know that should be cleaned out. Things can get a little weird if the cutlass bearings cannot receive the water supply that they're supposed to. That's the water flowing through that cutlass bearing lubricates the shaft and the cutlass bearing, and so water needs to flow through there very, very well, and it doesn't here because of all the growth. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all of that out, both sides. I was hoping that in doing so, I would notice something really, really wrong, like a melted cutlass bearing. But even after I cleaned this out and was able to take a look in there, I did not find a melted cutlass bearing or any unusual movement in the shaft strut area. So that didn't really reveal anything either. So what I've done here is I've taken the propeller anode. That is a zinc anode, commonly referred to as a zinc. I've taken that off of the back of the prop. And I'm going to check the tightness here on this castle nut. So the way that works is the nut screws all the way on, but you can see I'm pointing at it saying, yeah, I've got some movement in here. And when I take the cotter pin out, you can really see that nut that is supposed to hold the prop onto the shaft. The shaft is tapered, so it pushes it up onto the shaft. That nut's loose. And that should not be loose. That should be tightened, hundreds of pounds. So I point at that and I say, yeah, that's something that needs to be tightened up. I've got a big wrench to be able to do that, but the nut is recessed into the hub of the prop, which is an unusual design. And so I'm going to need to get a socket that will fit in there. So I'm going to measure this out and make sure I've got the right size socket. And frankly, I don't. That is a 100 millimeter socket. I don't have that in my repertoire, so I went and bought one and came back the next day and finished this job and tightened this nut up the way that it should have been. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.